It's time for international business news. My name is Lekan Onabanjo and I'm glad that you're there. Now, the Federal Reserve is still on a collision course with financial markets, giving a sober warning to Wall Street and beyond. According to the latest MLIV poll survey, stocks and bonds are set to tumble once more, even though inflation has likely peaked as rate hikes reawaken the great 2022 sell-off. It is expected that American consumers will cut spending and unemployment will climb over 4%. China's central bank on Monday cut benchmark loan rates in an attempt to boost an economy battered by the government's strict zero-COVID policy and a slump in the property market. The world's second biggest economy saw an improvement after some coronavirus restrictions eased in June, but consumer and business sentiment remains weaker than usual. The People's Bank of China revealed that the one-year loan prime rate, which serves as a benchmark for corporate loans, was reduced from 3.7% to 3.65%. Meanwhile, South Korea's early exports barely rose in August as geopolitical risks and central bank tightening weigh on the world economy. Daily shipments increased 0.5% on average in the first 20 days of the month compared with a year earlier. While total exports advanced 3.9%, chip sales declined 7.5% and shipments to China dropped 11.2%. This is due to the pressure from Russia's war on Ukraine, COVID lockdowns, and global interest rate hikes. Oil prices fell on Monday, ending 3 days of gains on fears aggressive U.S. interest rate hikes may lead to a global economic slowdown and dense fuel demand. Brent crude futures for October settlement declined 1.2% to $95.55 a barrel, with concerns over slowing demand in China because of a power crunch in some areas also weighing on prices. U.S. WTI crude futures for September delivery due to expire on Monday were down 1.2% at $89.65 a barrel. The more active October contract was $89.29, down by 1.3%. Let's also tell you that gold traded at the lowest level in more than 3 weeks as Federal Reserve officials reiterated their commitment to tighter monetary settings to curb inflation. The haven asset capped its first weekly decline in 5 as traders weighed hawkish comments by policymakers, which make the possibility of higher interest rates more certain. Fed Bank of Richmond President Thomas Barkin said the central bank was resolved to returning inflation to its 2% target, even if that meant risking a U.S. recession. And that's it on international business news. Now, Zimbabwe has felt the pinch, the crunch, the squeeze, and more in the past several years. But things have started looking up for them with discussions on how to rework the country's debt. And now, help is coming from the African Development Bank. That will be our next conversation on Business Edge. Do stay with us. We'll be back with more. The conclusion of a fact-finding visit by a team from the African Development Bank on Friday signifies the bank's desire to support Zimbabwe, particularly in getting investments. This comes just 2 months since AfDB President Dr. Akinwumi Adesina traveled to Zimbabwe to assist the government in developing a clear plan to pay off its $13.5 million external debt to foreign financial institutions. Many are hopeful of the solutions and investments that can come from this partnership. And so Denford Mutashi, President, Confederation of Zimbabwean Retailers, joins me on the show this morning to unpack the possibilities of this partnership. Good morning to you, Denford. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. A very good morning to you.
All right, now, the AfDB seems to be doing a lot in Zimbabwe. Why do you think they have a particular focus on Zimbabwe now?
I think, as you may be aware, since the coming in of the Second Republic, His Excellency the President, Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, actually went out to invite all countries, institutions, and re-engage with everyone. And you remember, he has always been very clear, saying that Zimbabwe is an enemy to none and friends for all. And that actually resonates quite well with the ongoing engagement exercise that is currently taking place, where institutions, international financial institutions like Africa Development Bank, has also come on board to ensure that not only is it going to help the country to expunge its international arrears, but it is also going to go ahead and assist the private sector through developmental program support. And that is very key, owing to the fact that under Vision 2030, which has been actually enunciated by His Excellency, Zimbabwe has become a broad-based economy that is certainly going to be driven by the public, rather by the private sector, and that it is that development that is actually currently taking place, with an increase of a number of new businesses that have reopened, and some that have actually come from outside to open in the country. So I think in line with that, it is actually a welcome development that AfDB has come to Zimbabwe. Initially, you remember, it was the president of AfDB who visited Zimbabwe and had historic talks. And so far, we actually had the two vice presidents that also had fruitful discussions with the Minister of Finance and Economic Development on behalf of government.
All right, therefore, now the AfDB Vice President, Private Sector Infrastructure and Industrialization, that is Solomon Queno, said his primary interest was to see what the bank can do in the private sector development. And we are talking about the operations of the private sector. But then where has the private sector been before now? What has been their operations? What has been their contributions before AfDB decides to step in?
I think we've got a lot of development that has taken place, and the government has directly and indirectly been assisting development of the private sector through internal resources mobilization, through the fiscus and through budgetary interventions. And we are happy as a country that we have managed to actually come this far, despite lack of international direct and indirect support, especially that is to come from the traditional Bretton Woods institutions, other international funders, the Paris Club. Why? Because we owe, and there were some conditions that we also needed to clear part of that we owe, so that we could begin to access international support. Financial support. But so far, in each and every province in the country, there has been a lot of private sector development that has taken place under devolution. One of the pillars under devolution is actually targeted towards increasing each province's GDP by coordinating programs, business socio-economic programs that take place within a particular province, so that all, if they are collected, they can actually lead to a huge impact in terms of the national GDP. So far, we have seen a lot of development in mining, development in agriculture, the manufacturing sector, tourism sector, and many other sectors that have actually brought about new and emerging businesses, actually in the majority indigenous Zimbabweans that have actually taken up the space.
All right, now the public-private sector partnership, or call it the PPP model, has been used across the world. Do you think that Zimbabwe's private sector is receptive to this model? And do you also feel that other private institutions outside the country will be willing to bank on the PPP model to gain inroad into the country?
Indeed, we have seen a lot of public-private sector programs taking place in the country, and we've got quite a number of other institutions that have been assisting Zimbabwe, especially if you look at development programs that have been carried out by China and also other development partners that have come from the region. We have also worked quite closely, especially at the earliest years of the new dispensation. We were working very strongly with Afrexim Bank, which which has actually come up with quite a number of other similar programs and initiatives that are targeted at green projects. And that is something that is actually quite welcome. But we welcome the coming in of AfDB, because the more the merrier. But in any case, what we also look at in the perspective that we look at this is that, remember, because of external debts and arrears that we owed, we didn't use to deal with such institutions like AfDB. But so far, because of the re-engagement exercise that the country has actually carried out, it is a trajectory that has now led to more and more international financial partners coming on the fore. And it is something that that is quite encouraging, especially for most Zimbabweans, especially those in the small to medium enterprise. And remember, there's bigger opportunity in the country, because with the 70% of the business that is informal, there are a lot of programs then that can be tied to such international financing models, onto ensuring that we harmonize the private and the informal sector, the private sector, informal sector, and the formal sector, and ensure that collectively they can now begin to contribute to the fiscus through tax payments and a lot of other support mechanisms that can go directly towards the fiscus. So we are happy as a country that AfDB has come on board, and we will do that much we should as a country to ensure that the support is actually going to be directed towards the private sector development. There's also a lot of support that is coming through technical support, financial support, and of course, a lot of other support services structures that have come on board.
All right, thank you so much, Denford Motashu, for joining us on the show. We would love to continue the conversation, maybe some other time, to see how this partnership and, of course, the support coming from AfDB would help Zimbabwe have a stronger and a better economy. Thank you so much, Denford.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now, since the coming of the Second Republic led by President Emerson Mnangagwa in November 2017, the country has embarked on various infrastructure development projects in the areas of road and energy, among others. Now, with the support of the AfDB to help Zimbabwe clear its debts, the mineral-rich African country might just be on an accelerated path to witnessing more public-private-driven industrial revolution and economic growth. And so that is the conversation. We'll leave it there for today, but do not forget that we still have more to come. But then before we go on a break, let me ask you, does the money in your pocket feel like it's going as far as you would expect, or it is not going as far as you would expect? Well, today's Money Monday could have a solution for you. So just stay with us. We'll get right into it after this break.